So welcome, Sue. It always
Hello.
feels very strange to put
It
the
does.
put the boot on the other foot, doesn't it? To
Yeah.
to kind of
Especially
start.
I just had to press record because I'd forgotten I was in charge.
You are in charge, but not for the next few minutes. We're going to talk
No.
about your article. I'm going to grill you
Okay,
about the
grill me.
article that you've got in Salonpreneur Magazine this quarter. So why
Indeed.
don't you briefly, and I'm going to go a lot deeper on lots of these points anyway, because there's some amazing stuff in there. So why don't you briefly kind of tell people what we're talking about today?
Okay, so what we're talking about is the second part of my Business Brilliance Method,
Hmm.
which is facets, which is
Hmm.
about being found, getting people to act, getting people to connect, how you then engage with them, the touch points in your business, and then how you support people. And
Cool.
that's a quick overview of it.
So we've got, and we'll jump into each of those points. So, part one of your method was foundations in bright, which we talked about last quarter,
Indeed.
and then we're jumping into facets this time for
Yeah.
stage two. And the first
Yeah.
part of that is about find, which is about
Yeah.
getting discovered.
Absolutely.
But the argument that you're making is that more visibility doesn't necessarily mean more marketing.
And I think it's a really important factor. We seem to we are not the only industry that do this. We put so much content out, and we're everywhere. We're seen all over the place, or we think we're being seen all over the place. And I think this is the biggest key to it: is that we currently in our sector definitely, because we're very much a before and after industry. Most of our clients walk in looking one way and they leave looking slightly different in whatever it is that we've done. And so we tend to use that as like a massive marketing ploy. If I, especially in hair, I can't stand seeing the back of people's heads. I find it really irritating. And it just makes me turn off. So you can be really, really visible, but not be talking to the people that you want to talk to. Apart from the fact I don't have colour and I don't have long, bouncy blow dries,
Hmm.
clearly. But I think we can be all over the place and not be seen, because when people are looking for you and they're searching with intention, they are not necessarily going through the local Facebook group trying to find who posted the last haircut or the last
No.
colour or the last set of nails or whatever. They're not looking for that at that point. When they need you to be visible, you aren't always there on
Mm.
social media. And so being found becomes much more about a bigger shop window online. It becomes much more about other places that you can get found, where it's that those doors are open 24/7, and that can do its job for you even when you're asleep. And so being visible is not necessarily just about how much content you put out. It's just about your consistency in where you show up and how well you show up in those places, for me.
And I think the prime example of that is if you look at your own feed, I'm in the salon industry. This is kind of what
Yeah.
I eat, sleep, and breathe, and yet that's not what's in my feed. What
No.
what tends to be in my feed is blokes with their tops off chopping up logs and things like that. It's just the algorithm knows what I want to see, and what I want to see is not before and afters of hair and nails, even though I'm part of that industry. And,
Yeah.
and as much as you hate the back of people's heads, I hate a set of nails holding on to the colour.
Oh no, I know. Yeah, I know.
I can live
It
without
does.
that in my
It's
life.
very frustrating, and all of those. Although we don't get it so much, like the brow photos and stuff, isn't
Hmm.
it? It's like anything where we make a visible transformation. Can you imagine if we did it after massage?
I
It'd be
think
so
that
boring.
I think what always makes me laugh with the brows and lashes is they always look like they've been crying anyway because they've got tint in their eye or whatever. They always look really upset with their new brows and lashes. It's not even a great before and after.
No,
Anyway,
and I think people look weird because quite often the photos are taken from upside down. And
hmm
I know I was doing some work with someone last year, and I said to her, like, "You do realise all these photos are upside down on your website?" And she's like, "Oh no, it's a trend. It's how everyone's doing it on Instagram."
well, it's that or look at people's nostrils, I suppose,
It's
isn't
just
it?
like, oh no, I can't. And it probably, me and my husband were like, we just have to keep turning our heads around because we couldn't write it in our heads. It was like, no, I can't do that. Um, yeah, so there's a whole thing of it there with all those before. I mean, that is just, we do need visuals, but we don't need constant visuals. We actually need to talk about, and when we are being found, we need to be talking about what we can help people with, what their outcome's going to be. And it is in that, but that comes into connection really. But it's
yeah, I think it's about really understanding intention. So when somebody's on social media, what is their intention? Their intention is not to find a new hair salon or a new beauty therapist. Their intention is usually to kill time, be entertained, have a bit of time before the husband gets up in the morning. You know, it's those things, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like, let's look at some lovely Boston Terrier videos and just go, oh, aren't I glad I've got one of those?
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's what I do quite a lot of, if either that or international politics is my want at the moment. But I think that there's so much that we forget that is available to us to market our businesses. And I mean, you know, because I know we were talking about it recently, is that, you know, the whole thing around Google is, you know, that shop window's there all the time. And people don't buy into it. And it's just such a wasted opportunity because when people do have intention, the same as all of us, what's the first thing you do? You pick your phone up, you go on whatever search engine, generally Google is most people, even though I've got Safari on so many of my things, I still go to Google. And you type in whatever it might be, hairdresser near me, nail tech near me, restaurant, tire changing facility, whatever it might be. We put that in. And that's when people are actually looking for you.
Exactly.
So if you're not in that space, you are missing a massive trick. And
Okay.
if you aren't there with your Google business profile, if you're not there with a website that supports the Google business profile, that's optimized and has everything done on it, and there's so many layers to that, I'll be here all day if I go into it, but there's just so many layers to what you can do with your website. If you're not on directories, there's all these ways that you can be there for the moment when someone is searching with intention locally. And let's face it, we're local businesses. We don't want to set, if you're providing a set of nails, you can't do that to someone that's 150 miles away from you.
No.
So stop doing follow ladders and start doing Google Business Profile.
So I'm going to throw a challenge at you then while we're looking at the find bit. So let's say a salon owner's got just 30 minutes this week to do one thing to improve their discoverability. What should that thing be?
Sign up to Google Business Profile if you haven't got it already. And if you have got it already, go on there and put some posts on. You should be if you put as much effort into your Google Business Profile as you do your social media accounts, you would probably be far busier.
Is there, I don't want to get too stuck in the weeds because we've got, you know, a long journey ahead of us on FACETS.
We have.
But is there a kind of sweet spot for that? Is there a point where, you know, like at the moment, people are feeling a lot of pressure to post on social media, sometimes multiple times a day, let alone every day? Does that have the same level of benefit on something like Google Business, or is once a week enough, or where are we at with that?
Do you know what? It's actually, I was on a call yesterday, and apparently a big international coach has just put out that we should be posting 500 times a day. I mean, that's just ludicrous. And I don't know what kind of business you need to be. I mean, I think you need to be sort of like an 8-figure business to be doing that kind of stuff and have a team of people doing it for you. But, you know, we know on social media, we are expected to post generally at least once a day, maybe more. On Google, you have a presence that's there all the time. And the posts aren't necessarily there. Though you can see them as a feed if you're a client, but generally people don't see that. But what it does is it talks to the Google crawlers. And so even if you just put up 1 or 2 posts a week, and that is really all you need, is just to keep feeding current information about what you're doing, what you're selling, what you're offering. And you just need to do that once or twice a week, really, is the key to Google. You don't need to be on there all the time. So just 1 or 2 key posts every week that have have good use of keywords. And there's another thing like long tail keywords, which is when you start getting, you know, things like, how do I make my salon busier? You know, so there's chains of words that you can use, and AI can help you massively with this stuff. But you know, you need to have that stuff out there so that the Google crawlers ping you up, because nowadays there's only 10 promoted businesses run on the Google Maps. It used to be like 100, and they've dropped it massively recently. So you need to be doing the right thing to get found.
Let's move on to the A in FACETS, which is ACT.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
ACT means, basically it's your CTA, like your call to action. What are you doing that's going to make them want to press the button? And so, you need to have everything you do should have a call to action. And we are none of us perfect, and it's very difficult sometimes to remember that you need to put on there a reason why they need to contact you, or a reason why they need to take action. But we should, in an ideal world, be putting a CTA on everything we do, and on, like, if, for example, on Google or on your website. I mean, you can do it across your socials as well. You can have buttons, and you can have different, like, you could just use wordings that try and promote people to take action, or you can have buttons. And wherever you have those, just making sure, A, that the links work, and B, that you know where the links are going. So if it goes through to a funnel, and I mean, I did some work with a salon a little while ago, and I was testing a lot of different stuff for her, and I filled out her email form. It's a massive action taker on a website. Pop up, do you want to join our thing? Yeah, I do. And actually, I want to email you because I want to ask you a question. And when I came back, and I never received a response. I emailed 2 or 3 times over the course of the review that I was doing, never received a response. And when I said to her, she's like, I don't even know where they go. Where do they go? Like, I'd go and ask your web developer if I was you. Because all those little things, you know, you want people to take action, but you've got to be in charge of where that takes them to and how that makes them arrive in your world.
That's not the first time I've heard someone say, I don't know what that form does. I don't know where it goes. And you kind of think people are so careful about who they give their email address to. If they're willing to do that on your website, they're so ready.
Don't know where it is.
They're so ready to take action. What a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's important. We need to give them all those little tripwires where they just go, oh yeah, now I'm going to do it. And also, one of the other thing we need to remember as well with the act thing is that people, if they have to click too many times, are not going to act. So we need to reduce their clicks. I think now there's I was reading some research recently that was saying that we are now down to, if people can't do that within 1 or 2 clicks, they're out. And I don't know that obviously it's not everybody. Some people are quite happy to sit click, 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 click. And they don't mind going through that process. But if you put too many clicks in their way, then they're not going to act.
And I see that in my own behaviour. I see a lot of stuff, particularly on Instagram adverts, where you click on the advert because you're interested, and instead of actually getting the information you want, you get a questionnaire. No.
I don't want to give you that much information.
I haven't got time. I just wanted to know how much it was.
I know. I downloaded something the other day, and I was like, oh my God, why did I do that? And it's a fascinating like ebook. But I thought I was just going to get like a little PDF, and it was 20 pages long. So I had to set time aside to go back to it and read it. And I just anticipated I was going to get like a quick 10-point guide. But no, it was like 6 paragraphs on every point, which was really interesting when I found time to read it. But you've got to be that invested to go with the follow through.
Yeah, that's a lot. So moving on to C, then we're talking about connection. Which is, I mean, specifically, we're talking about the trust before the booking at this point, aren't we?
Yeah, indeed. And I think, go on, sorry, Phil.
No, I was just going to say, so talk us through that a little bit.
I think basically, we expect people to come to us. As new clients, they don't know who we are. They don't know what they're going to arrive at. They don't know what's going to happen when they get to us. And especially if they're coming for something that is a more personal service, whether that's intimate waxing or for massage, for so many. And I'm sure we've had this conversation previously about the fact we expect people to arrive in our world and literally strip down to their knickers and be undressed under a towel when they've known us for 5 minutes. And so we have to we've got to build that trust in all of that stuff that's out there in the world, and whether that's our business profiles, whether that's our websites, whether that's our socials. How we show up and behave and present ourselves in our business is where all of that trust is built, and the starts of that client connection and that client partnership are made. And if we have inconsistencies within those touch points that they see, they won't connect with us. So they'll find us, but then they probably won't act. They might see all your call to actions and everything, but if they're not liking, their subconscious is going to get little red flags going, oh, I don't know about that. We saw that when we went to Joe Smith's down the road and we weren't sure if we liked that. So, or if they're going to be the same. And we need to make sure the pathway to the connect, like the button that they connect with us, is really important, and that needs to work well. And then when they do arrive in our world, we've got to have already started that trust process so that when they do arrive in real life, we can make that connection stronger and form a bond that means they don't want to leave us. And that obviously takes time to create that bond where they become more loyal. But it's a massively important part of it. And how we get them is sort of like there's a blur between the act and connect, because once they've hit the button and they've taken action, they are beginning that connection process. And as a human, that's a really important step for them to take, because they're just going, actually, I have belief that they're going to be able to deliver what they're saying they're going to deliver. And if you then, when you meet them, don't deliver that and you become inconsistent, then they're never going to stay with you.
I think there's I think the point that's really worth kind of repeating and perhaps diving a little bit deeper on is we're talking about the moment that trust starts to form.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned, for example, inconsistency has been one of those things that can kind of break that trust even before they've decided to come through the door. Yeah. So what kinds of things are people getting wrong, which might kind of break or betray that trust, which actually ultimately stops people wanting to go any further with that journey?
I think it's possibly the fact that they may see, you know, we were saying about the fact that they'll check, if they see your Google business profile, they might go off and check your Insta, they might go and check your website, they're going to go and check all these different places, because we need so much validation now to know that something's credible and real and true, and that the images aren't false, and all those, there's so much fact checking that we have to do now. So if you go to someone's Instagram and it is all pink and fluffy, and you've got all these images of people being enjoying their experience and everything, and then you go on TikTok, but you've got a team of girls on there having a laugh and being silly and doing whatever because they think that's going to get them to go viral or whatever. You start seeing the cracks, because if you're trying to put out there that we've got this beautiful, nurturing, pink and fluffy salon, you're going to come and it's going to be so nice, and then you see the team on TikTok behaving in maybe not such a professional way, it starts breaking, and shattering the image that the salon owner is trying to put out there. And so you've got to make sure that when you go from Instagram to Facebook to website to Google Business Profile, everything across it looks the same. The branding is the same, the methodologies are the same, the ethos is the same, the way that you talk is the same. Because and it might not even be that obvious to you as the business owner, but to somebody that's looking from the outside, that perspective is a very, very different place for them to be sitting from where you are. And if they start seeing, and it might even be little, sort of like ambery yellow flags that they're not quite sure. If something doesn't gel across everything you put into the world, it gives people reason to not connect.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key. Everything needs to be the same for their subconscious to go, yeah, we feel safe here. And if we don't feel safe, we're not going to book.
And I think there's something I would just throw into the mix from a pure marketing and money experience, is it's got to be accurate. I've had a lot of times when, if I'm engaged with a new coaching client, the first thing I want to do is stalk them. I want to see their website. I want to be on their mailing list. I want to see all those things. And, the website gives a particular image and maybe images of the salon, and they've got kind of an estate agent lens on the camera, making it look like this enormous space. And then you get there and it's this, it's a much smaller, beautiful, don't get me wrong, it can be very lovely and cozy, but don't pretend you've got something you haven't, because that disconnect between what you're presenting and the reality, you might have got them through the door, but that's actually when we see a lot of problems with retention on new clients, is there's a mismatch between what you promised and actually what you delivered experience wise.
And I think, we need to remember that our clients make a lot of decisions based on perception, and that's what they're seeing in front of them. But also, like I see, their subconscious is going to be telling them so many, their subconscious has witnessed thousands and thousands, millions of things more than their conscious mind has. And if their subconscious starts going, that's when all the gut feeling thing starts, about something's not quite right here. And if we give reason for their subconscious to start doubting, then we're going to potentially lose that client. And we just need to be real. And the fact that, you and I both love AI. And I don't mind having a dabble with trying to create silly images and stuff, but I do think I'm seeing a thing across like the internet at the moment, across socials, where people are starting to use AI images of themselves that look really, I think if you're cartoonified, it's one thing because it's really obvious. But I think, that whole thing of like using AI to create something that looks a little bit like you, but 15 years younger, or whatever, it's just disingenuous. And I think that we really need to be careful that we keep ourselves very real and that we don't put stuff out there that could be construed as not real. Because in this world, we need genuine. And I think that, that's what's going to give people the trust to connect with you more.
I think that takes us nicely onto the E, actually, because we're starting to engage, and we're talking a bit more about the human side that's going to take over once someone's booked. So what does engage mean? What does excellent engagement actually look like?
To me, engagement is about, from the moment they connect with you and they take action and they've booked that appointment, what do you do next? And what do you do from the moment they've booked through to the moment that they leave you after their treatment? And that's and then it goes slightly beyond that too. But it's all of that point of like once they've actually met you or they've met your business and they've connected with you and booked, you've then got an opportunity to welcome them into your business. So, for example, most booking systems do this. It's like, they're going to do an email to say you booked your treatment. You can tailor those emails. So many of us have made the mistake over the years, and I don't know if people even understand that they can do this. You can go into the back end of your booking system and you can change that. So make it more personal, make it more heartfelt, make it more you, rather than just go, here's your booking, you come in at 3:00 on Tuesday, see you then. Because that's the basics of what they do. You've got an opportunity to tell them what to expect. You're coming for an intimate wax. This is what's going to happen. You can tailor all of these emails. And if you don't want to put it on the email, you can put links in. If you're coming, go back to your website, good for traffic, good for Google, put links back into your website. So you've got a pre-care guide. I always had a pre-care guide on my Salon. I still do have a pre-care guide on my Salon website, because people need to know what to expect. And if they're like, for me, if they're coming for a massage, they need to know that they're going to experience, being virtually naked, and they're going to be asked to lay down on my couch in the first 5 to 10 minutes of being there. I mean, I'm fortunate in my business. I don't book back to back. I've always got time, so my consultation process isn't rushed. And if and I will take time to build rapport with people. But if you're in a busy salon environment, you don't get that. So helping people understand that your bookings are this amount of time, you're going to have this much time to get ready, this much time at the end, make all that process there, engage with them, help them understand how you operate, so that when they get to you, they know that they've got either a 60-minute slot of your time that your massage is going to be within, or they've got a 60-minute massage with time before and after. Because it's important, because they might book their diary around they're only going to be there for 60 minutes. Which with me, that won't happen, because my process is a 60-minute treatment with stuff either end. And so just those little touches and opportunities to just engage with them and welcome into your business. We used to have I don't do it nowadays, but when I had my salon, we had like new client packs, so that they got all the information they needed to take away with them. Information about our systems and about what products we used, and brochures and recommend a friend cards and loyalty cards, and they've got a whole pack of stuff to take away with them. That then you're in their mind when they get home. You rebooking. It goes on, but it's that whole thing. Apart from we all go, I give such wonderful customer service, which we should, because we're professionals. We should be able to nurture and care for our client whilst they're in front of us. But it's about all the other stuff that goes on around it that makes any of the amber flags that might be there, any red flags that might be there, it makes them all disappear. So that when they leave, they hopefully have rebooked before they've left. And if they haven't rebooked, they know exactly what they need to do so. And you follow up on that afterwards, post treatment emails.
And I think it's that managing of expectations is a really useful point as well, just in terms of, however wonderful your massage is, if I was expecting a 60-minute massage and actually what I got is a 60-minute time slot, it doesn't matter how big it is, I still feel ripped off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's
And
managing
we
client
know
expectations, educating on what
generally
they can
it's, you know,
expect.
that's in most instances in spa, that's the experience you have.
Mm.
And I think I have experienced the same in salons, but I think it's just about clear messaging
Mm.
in that, you know, if you're booking a 60-minute time slot, you're only going to end up with a 50-minute treatment. And for some people, that's like, you know, and you always know when that treatment's coming. You know, it doesn't matter if you're having a facial, having your nails done, having your hair done. You always know when you're approaching the end of that treatment, because there's certain patterns that the therapist or the technician will go through.
Yeah.
That is the final moments of that treatment. And if you're there and thinking, oh, I've only been on the bed for 45 minutes, why are they there already? You know, there's nothing worse. And like, and it's a I don't know. Oh, I mean, it's a mistruth, isn't it, really? I mean, you're not necessarily lying, but they're not necessarily getting what they thought they were buying.
Exactly, and it's that mismatch is
Yeah.
where that's where complaints come in, and all
Yeah.
sorts of things too. And also, I think a lot of what you're talking about just makes life a lot easier.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, we all know that people that rebook on the day tend to be in sooner and they tend to be more loyal, and all the rest of it. Well,
Yeah.
why not manage that expectation before they come in? If they know, you know, if part of your pre-care is to say, and to get the best results from this treatment, I need to see you every 4 weeks. Then when you're asking for the rebook when they're in the salon, it's easy. It's an easy
Yeah.
conversation.
And I think as well, there's things like I have to say I don't do it now, which is a slap in my face. I should still do it. But when I had my salon, and you know, and my turnover was important and my client retention was much more important. You know, my sort of clinic side of what I do now is not the be all and end all. I do it because I love doing it, and I'm not as fussed as I used to be, let's put it that way, about client retention. But it is still important to me. But back then, it was like, you know, one of our biggest selling points was we'd give recurring appointments for the next year, the next 2 years, whatever long they wanted to book for. We'd go, okay, we could do that. You know, if you enjoyed your treatment, let's book you in for the next 12 months. And, you know, and for some people, that's like such an easier way of existing,
For
because then
sure.
they've got that, you know, fortnightly appointment in. And especially if it's a prime time appointment, you know, like sort of 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, that's a really, really prime appointment. And if you can book that through for the next 12 months for them, and they know they're never going to miss another appointment, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? I mean, how's that for customer service?
I think this is a nice point to move on, because what we're talking about really, or what we have been talking about, is a lot of touch points before the appointment, and that takes us on to T, which is touch points.
Yeah, because there is so many. You know, we touch our clients in many ways, all of them appropriate, and it does go from, you know, the first touch point is the moment they type in salon near me. That's their first touch point to us, is the moment they type those words in. And the last touch point is when they come back through the door for the second, third, fourth. You know, that there's the touch points never really end. It's just like it's an eternal circle of just all those ways that every time they connect with you, you do the same thing that makes them want to keep coming back. And it can be, you know, one of my favorite things that I talk about is how clean is your toilet. Because I know I've been to salons previously where I've been in their loos and it's like, really? What is this, like the junkyard? Dirty old clothes on the back of doors, dirty mop in the corner. I won't shame the salons by saying who they are, because it's just like, it's shocking, because they're salons that I would have expected to walk into, you know, the equivalent of being in the Harrods toilet, you know. It's just, and I've walked into their loos and just been, wow, that's not good. Wobbly toilet seat. You know, can I eat my dinner off it? I want to be able to eat my dinner off a toilet.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, those, and it's a really basic thing, but it's a really important factor, because if you do have that kind of area in your business, or even, you know, if they have to go anywhere near your staff room, you know, making sure everything is on top, is like top dollar. Because if they go into that toilet and they have a bad experience in there, they're probably never going to book a long treatment with you ever again. Because if
No.
they, you know, especially if they're either pregnant or they've got bladder issues or they're a more mature person, the chances are they're going to, I mean, I used to have one client, she used to come to me, she'd like walk in the door, go to the loo, leave, go to the loo. And, you know, and my toilet was an important place. I had a lot of older clients. And, you know, and things like that are so, so important. And we kind of overlooked them as just being, oh, it's just the loo. But when was the last time you bleached a toilet? Really?
My grandmother used to, anytime we went out to eat, she would always use the loo before we were allowed to go and sit down. Because she said, if you wouldn't do a poo there, why would you want to have your dinner there?
Yeah, but it's a really good point. I sat at oh god, I can't remember. I think it might have been at Salon Life actually, and they had, and I've been banging on about toilets for years. And when I went, we got commended for it on my scratch tiles, but like my walls by the mystery shoppers every time, because they always get told to go into the loos, and like my
Hmm.
toilets were sparkly. Like I only had a toilet, but it was, it was clean and all the time. It was like, we never ever let it get messy. And then this lady, she was she was the Virgin Airlines head of customer experience, and she also managed customer experience for the 2012 Olympics. And the first thing she put up was a picture of a toilet. I'm like, oh, you're singing my song.
Hmm.
And she said, like, they have on Virgin aircraft, one of the most important things they ever put into their customer experience was having a clean toilet. I was like, oh, you're my favorite person.
I flew to Belfast last week and
Oh, did you?
back, and I was a little bit nervous because I was flying out of Southampton, which meant that the plane had the whirly propellers on the front, which is,
Mm.
and I was a bit anxious, so I read the reviews, and this guy had done a walkthrough video. Um, and he said, I can't really understand it, but someone's taken a toilet roll, and the grab handles that they
Yeah.
have to make toilets accessible. Somebody had stuffed a toilet roll behind the grab handle, and it only stuck with me because it was still there when I flew, kind of
No.
6 months later. So it must have been the same plane because it was the same toilet roll stuffed in the same place. I thought, that's not great, is it? So
No,
that means
no,
it's there for a mechanical reason. Anyway,
isn't it just? I
we've
know.
kind of got
So
hung up
joined
on
by
toilets.
Dodger the dog. Yeah. So
Bless. Yeah, we've got hung up on toilets, but actually those
we
touch
did, yes.
points aren't just in the salon, are they? They're things that keep the client in your world
Yeah,
between the
absolutely.
appointments too.
Yeah. And it is, whether it's in between treatment appointments, not appointments, in between treatment emails, anything like that, how much do you make your clients feel? Sorry, getting superseded by my dog. Um, but it's how well do you make your clients feel welcomed in it? So I'm getting quite distracted by the dog's just decided he's going to be a pain. Stay there, Dodge. But how welcome do you make your clients feel? And that doesn't stop at the point when they walk through the door and before they leave. You need to make them feel part of your community. One of the things that I can remember when I did my first ever Scratch Stars entry, and we had to get testimony. Like at that point, they was like, you had to get testimonials from like, I don't know, like 30 clients or something. I can't remember. There was a lot of clients we had to get testimonials from. And one of my clients who moved from my home salon to my main salon was like, it's like walking into Sue's lounge, and I just feel so at home. And she's the most amazing host. And I was like, that's a really odd way of describing it. But it was because she felt that relaxed and she felt that
Mm.
welcome and that at home. And she knew I'd look after her and I
Hmm.
would be a good host. And I think there's an element, sometimes we need to kind of remember that we are a host and they are our guests. As much as they're clients and they're paying us money, we are inviting them into our venue, whether that's at home, whether you're actually mobile and you're in their home, but they're still, you're bringing your world to them.
Mm.
And I think, we need to do whatever we can to keep them engaging with that at all points. And whether that
Mm.
is doing nice things, like just sending out, how's everyone going email. I don't know. There's lots of ways we can do it.
Mm.
Lots and lots of ways we can do it. But
It's actually why I'm a big fan of white label products as well, because
yeah,
I think it's just a little touch point every time they go into the bathroom. You're
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Just that little bit of presence in their lives in
yeah.
a positive way, I think is hugely powerful.
Yeah, we used to have like white label in our new client packs. We always used to have like a little white label like lip balm or a
Hmm.
cuticle balm that had our label on it. So
Hmm.
we're just always there.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love, and I keep meaning to do it, and I keep forget. I have the intention whenever I'm in a salon, I'm like, I must do that, and then I come back indoors and forget about it. But when I used to use Comfort Zone, they did an amazing thing, and they always used they had like little cotton ribbons that you'd tie onto the client at the end, and you'd put a few dabs of their beautiful tranquility oil on, and it just had like Comfort Zone written on it, and they came in all different colors. And they take it away. So not only do they have a brand reminder on the wrist, but they also have the olfactory reminder of like what that smelled like. And the whole point of it, they use, like, they've got a neuroscientist that works with them. And, you know, but take these examples and make it your own, you know. It's like, they have scientists that have worked out that if they can take that smell away with them, that smell's going to stay on that piece of cotton for a good few days. And every time they smell it, they're going to be transported back to your world. I mean, what a touch point is that?
Amazing.
And it is and still people I've bumped into, or just say bumped into, I was actually at her house the other day, one of my really old school friends who was a client of mine at my salon, and she loved Comfort Zone that much. She's really quite relieved because Centre Parks now have it, and so we're not too far from a Centre Park. So she goes to the day spa just so she can experience Comfort Zone, just so she can smell that oil and go back to what it felt like the first time she came into my salon.
Wonderful.
And I had that, what was that, 11 years ago, that she had her first experience with Comfort Zone. And if you think how well that's still working 11 years on, if you have like aromatherapy based products in your, or even with some of the hair stuff, you know, I mean, Comfort Zone's the same person as Davies, and you know, their products are amazing, and it's all built from neuroscience.
Yeah,
it's like staggering stuff. And if you can click into that in someone's head, so they love having that reminder of you and your business, best touch point you'll ever find.
I think it's also, there's a lesson in there around taking lessons from bigger businesses. I think sometimes we see what bigger businesses are doing and go, well, that can't work for me. And I'm a big fan of letting the bigger businesses do the research and take the brunt of that as well, you know, because it's costly to test stuff out. And I think if you see a big business doing something that makes you go, well, that's an odd thing to do, or that's unusual, scratch the surface a little bit and find out why, because they will have spent tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands sometimes testing, and there will be a really good business reason why they're doing something that way. Tiny example, and then we'll move on to our S, is the client promise that we had in our salon. Had a 5-point promise, and one of those promises was that we would offer you a conditioning treatment every single time you came into the salon. And if we didn't, you didn't pay for your hair that day at all. So it could have cost us, you know, hundreds. Great idea. We sold loads of conditioning treatments, which a lot of people would say is the best bit of their salon visit anyway. So brilliant for us, brilliant for the customer. Where did I get it from? That came from TGI Friday, because TGI Friday said if they didn't offer you a dessert, you would get it for nothing. And it just got my head kind of going, okay, how can I apply that? Because there's something there. There's something they've tweaked on there that actually makes that a good business decision. And I think there's so many of these little clues in bigger businesses where we can kind of go, yeah, I'm going to pinch that. I'm going to make that work for me because I can see why they've done that way.
And it doesn't have to cost. I mean, you know, obviously that could cost you a lot of money if you forget to do it. But those little things, you know, like having those little cotton ribbons, you can have, you know, buy a stamp, whatever. You know, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
No.
And it can make a really big impact in your client's day and in their life.
You
become memorable. You just need to do something that makes you memorable.
Absolutely. I was did you see the video from the guy, I can't remember, his name's Rory something, marketing guy. He was talking about Five Guys, the burger restaurant, and how if you buy a burger, the burger is expensive because it's excellent, and then you get the fries in the cone, whatever, and they always take another scoop of fries and throw it in the bag. And he said, you know, it would be so easy for them to cut costs by not doing that extra scoop of fries, but actually that's the bit that makes people feel that they're getting something they haven't paid for, something over and above, something the business doesn't have to do. And that justifies then in your mind the fact that the burger is 3 times as dear as a McDonald's burger.
But also they probably decided how many fries they wanted to give you and then downsize the Coke.
Maybe.
The cone looks full, but they're just giving you the extra, but they're probably not. It's got to be costed.
Of course. Or it's just costed in that it justifies you spending 16 quid on a burger. I have to say, I didn't think the burger was. Wow. Oh my God.
I've only been to Five Guys in America years ago.
It's it's a dear old burger, but there we go.
Anyway,
let's move on to S, which you've got down as support. Though actually, I think it could be shine. I quite like the shine
I
thing.
know, but my next funny thing is shine. Like, it's bright
I
assets
know, but
shine, so we can't have shine.
in my head, we're not supporting, we're shining in this bit. But
Okay.
tell us about support.
But I think it is. I think so much of this is about, that whole, we are humans and we need support, because sometimes we're having a bad day.
Hmm.
Sometimes we might need more in our treatment. Sometimes we might not understand how something works. And we just, as people that work in this industry, we are, and I know we were saying this phrase earlier, but we're humans making other humans feel more human.
Hmm.
And I think that's where the support bit comes in, is that they entrust us with their care. They entrust us with providing a service that's going to make them feel better, more confident, more vibrant. They're going to, just feel better in themselves. I mean, with my hair, I don't really get that whole, although I just had a load of mine cut. I just had it cut because I was trying to grow it. And when I had it cut, back to this, it was just like the relief and the feeling I was back to me.
Mm.
And my hairdresser was like, I can't believe that you're being this like wowed by having your hair cut to like a quarter of an inch, whatever it is I had cut to. I'm like, because it makes me feel me.
Hmm.
And all the time I was growing it out, I didn't feel like me. And I think, and so she'll do whatever I want her to do, love her, because she wants to support what I'm going through.
Hmm.
And I think, we know that that's a key part of what we do, but that support goes from all of those, that beginning point of how easy we make it for them to book. And if we've got a technical system, or what people perceive to be technical, for most of us, it isn't very technical. But, if you've got a booking system that someone who's not technical minded or is a technophobe, whatever way you want to look at it, if they don't know how to do that, how can you support them through that process?
Hmm.
Have you got something on your website that says, like, if you have difficulty with our booking system, if someone's not fully literate or they're dyslexic, that booking system may be a block for you. So have something on your site that's in an accessible font with accessible colors that makes people understand that you can help them. Just give us a call and we can still book you in.
Mm.
And I mean, I just had a client who had been booked, a daughter had booked a voucher for her, and she couldn't get through my booking system without wanting, and she kept saying it was like, oh no, I've got to pay. And it's like, you haven't got to pay. It's optional online, and you don't, but in the end, she couldn't get through it. So it's okay. In the end, her daughter phoned me and was like, can we just do it over the phone? Because she's really struggling.
Mm.
All of those little bits that you do, I could have just gone, oh, get on with it. But
Mm.
you've got to help the people, and you've whatever it is they need assistance with, you need to support them. And whether that's with the home care, aftercare, with how they connect with you, whatever it might be, they just sometimes need to have a little bit of something extra from you.
Mm.
It doesn't have to all be automated. It doesn't all have to be everything's on them to make the process work.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think I'm after an opinion now.
Okay.
You've been customer facing for a few
Quite a
years.
long time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We can measure it in decades, I think, rather than
I don't
single
even know if I
years.
want to do that, Phil, to be honest. No, because
Um,
I started working in my great aunt's shop when I was like 12, 13 years old. So I've been a long time. Yeah,
and
because of
I
course I'm
guess
only
the
35.
I guess the opinion that I'm after is, are we getting better at this or are we getting worse at this?
I think it depends to a degree. I think it depends on your generation.
Mm.
And I think that the older generations are probably better at being human and as Steph Stevenson would say, humaneering. I do love
Mm.
that phrase. And I've told her I'm nicking it because I just love it. But we're better at human contact, I think. And I might be casting great aspersions on the younger generations. But I think that technology is disconnecting the younger generations from humans just by nature of what it does. It does amazing things, but it's disconnecting us slightly. So I think that we know we're seeing that our younger professionals sometimes struggle more with that human connection element. And
Mm.
I don't know how we change it. I don't know how we make that improve. That's another whole conversation.
Mm.
But I do think that we need to remain consistently open to improving. Because even, I mean, there's stuff. I mean, I've been facing clients and customers since I was a teenager in many different roles. and there's always stuff to learn. We can never stop, because humans are changing. And even the way, like me saying that the younger generations of our professionals are changing and aren't so human focused in the way that perhaps we are, or I am. But that hopefully is the same way for the clients, and we know that going forward that there's going to be a massive shift in that emotional connection to clients. There's going to be, a lot more requirements for silent treatments and headspace and not being in their faces all the time. So we've got to adjust, as those of us that love that human connection and sitting having a chat and doing all that stuff. For some people, that's too much now. And so we need to adjust how we interact with people, because sometimes our overbearingness, I'm sure they probably find it, is a little bit too much, and they don't want to be spoken to.
And then just to kind of wrap up, I wanted to sort of pull focus a little bit. So we've talked about, in the previous issue, we talked about the bright foundations, and then we've gone through facets today. What comes after facets?
So that's shine, and that is service, hygiene, integrity, growth, and elevation. I remembered them all. But that, so basically it's just all of those bits where we kind of get the gaps, and it does. I mean, like the hygiene comes down to, we can all be a bit lax sometimes with things, and I think that, like the hygiene, the toilet thing is just like a massively important thing to me. Clearly, it comes up quite a lot. But that's just about, it's like those are the more sort of finishing touches to what we do, and it isn't like the elevation bit. I think is really important, because it's about how we elevate our businesses, but it's also about how we elevate our industry. And we're going forward, we need to elevate our industry and make sure that we literally shine and make sure that we do the very best for our clients. It's going to be a tough game going forward.
That feels like a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sue.
And
just so everyone gets the plug in as well, Salonpreneur Magazine.
Go buy it. Still available on the website.
And Sue's article is on page... Where was it? Page 81. Straight opposite.
Actually, yes, Phil's
fantastic.
Wonderful Madame Jaja. You can get the lowdown on our like Nescafe couple.
There you go.
Couple. Yeah.
Thank you, Sue.
Anyway, thank you so much, Phil.